Alright, this is part 2 of my lecture, Roberts Smith. We're going to just continue on with the game. My last move was h4, and I intend to play h5, opening up the h file and getting my rook into the attack. So Tom here, he plays, which I think is probably the only move in the position, he plays h5. He could also do h6, but I'm still going to push h5 afterwards and have pretty good control of the king side. So he plays h5, and then here I played intuitively, almost, it was probably too quickly. I just felt that I had to have a killer move here, and that's probably my biggest problem in chess, is not taking, I'm not patient enough. But it turns out here that my move actually works, and that move, my friends, is knight takes h5. Check. The point being here that yes, he can take the knight, but then I can follow it up with queen g5 check. I'm going to get this pawn. He can bring this in, but the point is I'm going to end up getting that c4 pawn eventually, and then I will have 3 pawns for my piece, and then my initiative on the king side is probably going to last a little longer than he would like. So that was one way to go about it. But after about 20 minutes, he decided that it wasn't the best thing for him to do, and I think he didn't see his knight maneuvering to g6, so I thought he probably believed he was going to get mated. So I think he scared himself out of taking the knight. So instead he plays king g8. And actually I didn't see the knight g6 maneuver either. I thought, the game was over whether he took it or not. But it turns out he had some resources. So I play knight f6 check, which wasn't the best move objectively. I probably should have played queen h6, and then he could still take the knight, but then I can bring my knight in from f3 to g5, and then I think I'm better. So the only move here is king g7. If he plays king h8, a fun little move 16, queen h6 mate would have been a nice end of the game. I would have been pretty happy with that. But it turns out that he's a little bit smarter than that, so he makes it pretty difficult for me for a while. So he played king g7, then I play h5, threatening to rip open the h file, play queen h6 mate. So he plays rook h8 to stop it, but now I have this nice little move h6 check, and his king only has 1 square. All these moves that I'm playing are pretty forcing, which is nice to play. It just turns out that there's nothing forcing enough to make him resign. So he plays king f8, and then I follow up with my plan. I get this past h-pawn, I push h7. And now the g7, going to g7 isn't accessible for the king anymore, just because I can play queen h6 mate. So it doesn't matter that the pawn is still on h7. I effectively ripped open the h file. It just so happens that I have a pass pawn on h7 now. So it's really nice. And now he plays knight f5. And the point is here that he actually can bring his king back to g7 if I don't do anything about it, because my queen can't go to h6 anymore because his knight controls that square. So here I thought for a couple minutes, and I realized that I really don't have any intention of casting on the king side ever. My rook on h1 is just a beautiful piece right now, and I really don't need to disturb him. He's doing quite well. So I figure I'll probably castle queen side eventually. So these king side pawns can actually just be used as attacking pieces right now. So that's what I do. I get this knight out of the way so that I can still have the h6 square for my queen if need be. So I push g4. And then he goes knight g7, blocking any potential checks at h6 from the queen. And then here I thought for a while. I thought there must be some kind of killer attacking plan where he's going to get mated in 5 moves, or I'll win his queen, or something along those lines. I just felt that my position was so overbearing that there had to be something here for me. So I thought for a while, and I couldn't find anything. And maybe even a few months before this tournament, I might have played something unsound here. just because I thought I would have a win. But I think I've learned a few things, and one of them is that you can't rush it. I did even a move in this game earlier when I took the pawn at h5, where I took an unnecessary risk, and I didn't feel that was something that I really needed to do. My position is so good here, and I felt I could just consolidate and get into a better endgame, and I think that shows a little bit of where I've gone with my game. So I have queen b4 check. He plays queen e7, and I can take on e7, and then I'm still have a pawn, and my position's just killing his. But instead, I just consolidate and take queen c4. Now I'm up 2 pawns. He goes knight 8, trying to get rid of my beautiful f6 knight, but I really don't want him to do that. So here I play knight g8, hitting the queen, and then here he plays queen d8. And this is one of my favorite positions that I've had in any of my games. If you notice all my pieces, I have this beautiful rook at h1, this beautiful passed pawn at h7, this knight's all in his face, this knight here on f3 can jump to maybe g5 at some point, or h4, and then maybe have some sacking possibilities at g6. My queen is beautifully centralized. I'm ready to castle queenside, get my other rook in the game. And then you look at black, and he's completely undeveloped. His king is in a poor spot. He only has 1 square he can move to. He's almost in a stalemated position. His rook is entombed by my pawn and my knight. His knight is effectively dominated by my e5 pawn. His queen's probably his best piece at this point, but then you notice his bishop at c8 is just, biting on his own pawns at e6 and c6. So it's going to be a few moves before he'll be able to do anything with that bishop and get developed. And then, instead of queen d8, though, an interesting thing that he might have wanted to do would be rook takes h7. Exclamation, question mark, or I guess you could maybe say it the other way. The point here is that I could play either rook takes h7, and then he can get my knight, and that knight was a beautiful piece, and then he also got my passed pawn, so maybe they together were worth more than my rook in value. So maybe that would have been the form. Then I could play rook h2, castle queenside, rook dh1, and then I have double rooks on the h file, and I might be able to mate him. Who knows? Or when he took the pawn, I could have played. You might be saying, well, his queen's hanging. But yeah, I could play knight takes e7, but then he let rook takes h1 check, king d2, both my rooks. But I still might have something with queen c5 because I'm threatening all kinds of nasty discoveries with any knight move. So there might have been something there, but I didn't really want to allow that for him. But instead, he moves his queen back to the back rank and leaves this fun position. And then I go queen c5 check. And here I just made a conscious decision that I wanted to get down into an endgame. I wanted to get down to an endgame as quickly as possible. There was no chance that I was going to mate him. So queen e7, knight takes, and then he does win this h7 pawn, which I had to accept the consequences of that. But we're going into an endgame where I'm still a pawn up, and all of my pieces are better than his. So I figured it was, if I give back some of the material and I'm still in a better game, then why not? It's still a better game. If I play it correctly, then there should be no reason not to. So he takes, and then here I play knight takes e8. I could have played castles here, but after bishop d7, rook h1, king g7, knight g5, king f8, my knight doesn't have any squares anymore. So he's actually going to get my knight, and that would not be a fun ending for me. And this is where we're going to stop for part 2. Part 3 will include the ending of the game. I hope you join us for that one.